It is my honor today to have Bethany Stone as the guest on the Power Transformation podcast. Welcome, Bethany.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I'm
I am
I'm excited.
excited. Yes, I am too. And that excitement is for the both of us because this is really going to be a transformative interview. You have such a story to share on how you got to this place and space of where you are now. But I always like to start with something fun and lighthearted to get us going. So, Bethany, here is your question for you. If you could be a time traveler, past, present, or future, what time period would that be and why?
I would love to be in the future when we have space travel because I think it would be so cool to just
Uh-huh.
actually visit these planets. I
Yeah.
mean, in real life, not just pictures, not just, in the books or on the websites, but to actually like walk on Mars, grab
Mm,
a handful of that dust and just like live that. And I don't know, I love astronomy and I love planets. I've taught astronomy for a long time and I just always
hmm
thought it would be so cool if I hope I'm alive for when we get to just go hang out on
I
another
know.
planet, you know?
Exactly. And I can say that Back to the Future Part 2 messed me up, where although it was Earth, I thought by now we'd have flying cars.
Oh, I
So
know. I was actually really sad that here comes the year of Back to the Future. What was it, like 2024 is what the thing said?
no, it was 2015. It was 2015.
15. Yeah, well, we were all disappointed by that time. We're like, Back to the Future lied. It was not true. Where is our flying cars
I
and our cool
know.
hover skateboards? I would skateboard if I had a hover skateboard.
Me too. Oh my gosh, that's really cool. And then the last kind of question, because I'm just curious. I used to love the planetarium when I was growing up. Is that what also inspired your love for astronomy?
Um, I think I don't think it was a planetarium. I think I
Okay.
always grew up. So I grew up in Idaho and we have part of the darkest night skies in the US.
Oh,
And
yes.
so when I would go sleep on the trampoline as a child, I would get to actually look up at the sky and see the Milky Way and
Oh,
watch shooting
Bethany.
stars and see all this stuff all the time growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
then as I became a Montessori educator and had to teach this to my children that I was teaching, and I just fell in love with outer space. Like it's a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful space and it has so much serenity to it as well.
hmm Now that right there tops any planetarium is I know what it's like having those pitch black skies. Although I grew up in a city, I know like the outskirts part. It was a church where my
Uh-huh.
father used to pastor was in a rural place and they had pitch black and you could see everything and that was so beautiful and bringing up the stars, you to me, Bethany, are a star in your own right with just everything that you do for people and how you have helped serve people your entire life. And before we go into that, if a person were to ask you this question, how would you respond? Who is Bethany Stone?
I think in one word, I'm a teacher. I don't know how
Mm,
not to teach. I am deep in my soul a teacher, and it was more
mm,
of a heavenly calling than anything else because I didn't want to be a teacher. That's not what I wanted to be. I wanted to
mhm.
have my own cooking show and go to culinary arts. This was my
Oh,
when you grow up, what are you going to be?
yeah.
But teaching found me at a very young age and it has filled me. It's something I know I'm good at. I know how to reach people and I know how to teach. And in one word, I am a teacher.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You are a teacher. And before we get even more into this powerful story, Bethany, of resilience that shaped you, let's start with some lighthearted roots. What was the young Bethany like? And were there some early glimpses of the teacher, the coach, or dancer, even in you from back then?
I think definitely I can think
Mhm,
of a very funny story of myself when
mhm,
I was 3 years old. When I was three, my mom had a sucker, and it was a Tootsie Pop sucker.
mhm.
And I remember it very clearly because it was the red one, and I really loved the red Tootsie Pop suckers. And for some reason, I'm three, I did something that wasn't okay, and that Tootsie Pop sucker got taken away from me.
Oh.
But I know, 3 year
Mm.
olds, right? Whatever. So, in my super determined mind, I was like, I'll just go get my own sucker then. So I went and I got my silver coins from my room, took my little tricycle, rode on the side of the highway as semis were whooshing past me to the gas station, bought my own sucker. Oh, yeah, I did all of this. And luckily, I'm from such a small town that somebody recognized me and was like, how did you get here? Why are you here? Puts my truck in the back of their truck, brings me back to my mom, who then, of course, is not very happy to see me. But for me, I had the sucker. I had solved this problem. I had fixed it. I still didn't get that sucker, by the way. Well, actually, there's a little bit more to that. She took away that sucker, but later I climbed in her room and I found it and ate it. But, 3 year olds, I'm better now. But this little glimpse of how I was when I was a child, like
Mhm.
I was able to see problems, fix them, and have the determination to
Wow.
see things through. Even
Wow.
if I knew that it would be scary, and even though I knew it would be hard, I still, well,
Mm.
had that resilience to be like, I got this. I'll go get my own
Mm.
sucker. Yeah, it's scary. I will
Exactly.
take my little tricycle and I'll do it. So,
Exactly. That speaks volumes, Bethany, to your determination because that is certainly, and the whole time you were saying this, I was just visualizing it bit by bit, every step that you took where you were determined to get that Tootsie
oh,
Roll
I
Pop.
so was.
That's so
It was a
interesting.
red Tootsie Pop sucker. That's an
Yeah.
important sucker when you were three.
Wow. 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 You were determined by any means necessary to do
Oh,
what you
yes.
had to do to help yourself to that sucker. And wow, that is certainly a story. And I can see that as you grew older your determination would take you far in life, including how you later on would help others. You would be so determined to help others in their life. And it leads me to asking you to just share briefly about an event that happened when you were 16 years old and you faced something that so many people will never experience, and that is losing their home to a fire. Bethany,
Yeah.
how did that experience shift your understanding about security at a young age, but also how did that later influence how you help others?
Yeah. So when I was 16, I was actually at a ballroom dance competition. I was at nationals.
Oh,
And when the house fire happened, and I was one of the only ones not home. And this was really difficult. So we were doing our last performance. We ended up getting second in the nation ballroom dance. But during that last performance, um, I could see that everyone in the audience of my friends and stuff and their parents were whispering to each other and they weren't telling me something. I danced my final, and then I had my uncle come up to me and tell me that my house had burned down. And again, I'm from a very small town, and there is not a fire department. There
oh,
is a
wow.
volunteer fire department, but
Yes.
everyone lives way far out. And this was a terrible snowstorm. So to get to the fire department in a snowstorm when you are already snowed out is very difficult. So the house ended up burning completely down to the ground, only a roof left. And everyone made it out. Luckily, everyone was safe, made it out. And we ended up living with my grandma then after this experience.
Hmm.
And I remember coming home from this dance competition, and I had more than any of my siblings because I had a bag of dance costumes. They didn't have a toothbrush, underwear, like everything is gone. And I was feeling guilty actually that I had a toothbrush. And it really brought perspective into how important family is, and that we really what ended up happening is it shifted because we didn't need a lot of clothes. We didn't need stuffies. We didn't need those things. It really shifted our perspective to the most important things in life are right here, are each other. You don't need to have things to make you feel whole. You don't need to have all that stuff. You need to have relationships. You need to have connection, and you need to have God. Like, and it brought me down to those like core things of
Mm,
having those in my life. And I felt rich. Even though we didn't have
wow.
anything, I felt rich because I had a family and we were all safe and we loved each other. And there's actually a memory that I will never forget. But it was the first night we were all together as a family. And my dad asks if we'll all just kneel down for family prayer. And we knelt down for family prayer. And I can't remember what was said, but the feeling that was there was the strongest feeling of love and gratitude for everyone in that room. And after this prayer, not one of us had a dry eye.
Wow.
And we just knew how much we loved each other and how grateful we were for each other. And I think that when you realize that ultimately, if you have gratitude and love, you have everything. And
Mhm.
having that perspective shift has really carried me through a lot of different trials in my life. And so that's been a really great experience, trying
Wow.
experience, but also was something that's carried with me forever. So,
Wow. That makes a difference to have that whole feeling and concept of love. That
yeah,
makes such a difference. And the fact, Bethany, that you spent 22 years in a classroom shows that you had to have a love for what you were doing. And so that leads me to thinking about when it comes to this love concept, and we'll talk about the teaching aspect soon. But it's ironic how you came from love, you came from a very loving household. But a part of your journey that we'll speak briefly on is you are in now, of course, a healthy marriage, and it's thriving and it's beautiful, but a part of your past, it wasn't always like that. And so let's talk about the fact of how you came from such a loving home, but you actually endured um prior marriages that weren't as loving before
yeah,
stepping into the love and the stability that you have now with your husband. And sometimes, even a person listening or watching might be in a cycle like that where it may feel impossible to escape. So, what was your turning point, and how did you begin to rewrite your story?
yeah. So I had two previous marriages to the marriage that I'm in now. And my first marriage, I got married at 19, and I was young, I was naive, I was in love. And I think because I was such a loving person, I think sometimes it can also cause you to be very, very trusting very early on.
Mm,
And he actually, still to this day, he is a really good man, but he has way too many demons. And that is something that is a difficult thing for people to grasp, I think, to understand, because sometimes people can't control their demons. And he had bipolar and he would self medicate with alcohol and drugs and things of that nature. And I often was on the other end of that in a
mm,
physical way. And I had three little boys with him. And it was a very trying time because you kind of lose your worth. You pick everything up to be able to take care of your children because they become your everything. You protect them with everything you have, you hide things from them. You hide things from your friends, you hide things from your family. There's shame that comes along with being in a relationship like this. You don't want people to know because you don't want people to judge you. There's a whole ball of things that happen when you're in this type of relationship. Um, there are affairs that happen, lots of terrible things. And finally, I was able to break free from that with a couple angel friends that just grabbed my hand and was like, this is not okay. Let me
Mm,
help you. And honestly, if it weren't for my angel friends, I would not like have had the strength to do it at that time. But something happens when you're already broken. There are
mm,
evil people that look out and watch for people that are broken and prey on people that are broken. These controlling, narcissistic people they look for people like that so that they can control them. And I quickly fell into another marriage. And that marriage was physically abusive, yes, but more emotionally abusive. And if I were to choose between both of them, I would choose physical abuse 100 times over emotional abuse.
wow.
Because physical
Yeah,
abuse,
tell us more.
yeah, yeah, physical abuse stops. Physical abuse like can happen and the pain will go away. Emotional abuse sticks with you and it creates a darkness. It creates
Mm-hmm.
a seed of darkness that swells and swells and swells and takes over everything and just ruins every aspect of light that you have. It's a light consumer. And emotional abuse is terrible because it's not something
Mm,
people can see. Well, they can see it because you're sad, but they don't know why, and you can't explain it. And if you do explain it, it's not worth it because you feel like nothing. And it was
mm-hmm.
at these darkest moment of my life when I was feeling like nothing that I was able to look outside the window and see outside my window a hummingbird couple building a nest. And
Really?
yeah, and hummingbirds are really to see their nest being built is a very rare thing. And I know
Rare.
this because I am a Montessori educator. And hummingbirds also build their nests out of the most soft materials that they can find in nature, mosses and cottons. And they mold them and fold them around themselves to create this and weave it together. And, when I was at my darkest moment and I was thinking about the pills I could take to make all this pain go away and everything else, I was able to watch this. And it was at that moment when I was able to look outside myself and have that little tiny glimpse of gratitude for seeing such a rare, miraculous thing happen that all of a sudden my black growth that I had growing inside of me shot a beam of light.
Mm,
And I was able to recognize that and recognize I have value. This is not who I am. I am loved. I have value. I know because of the things I have been through that I am a determined person. I know that I have resilience.
mm-hmm.
I know that the most important things are gratitude and love. And it's almost like you forget until you can have this shot of light happening. And having that, I grasped onto that.
Mm,
And grasping onto that light just brought more and more light into my life. And by doing so, of course, by grasping onto light and becoming strong in a narcissistic relationship, that's not going to last because now all of a
mhm.
sudden you're strong and you're not going to take it anymore. And it's kind of a funny story because I was pretty much done with men after this. I was like, all men are inherently evil. I do not trust anyone.
Wow.
Back away. And it took my husband 9 months for me to agree to go on a date with him
Mm. He was
because he had to work.
persistent. Yeah.
Oh, that's the word. That is the word I used because he is an analyst as well. And I only met him because, I'm a single mom. I'm working 5 jobs. I opened up a school.
Mm.
I moved back home with my parents. I'm waitressing. I'm donating plasma. I'm teaching ballroom dance lessons on the side. I'm managing a greenhouse. I'm opened up a school. I'm doing all of these things at one time, being like, I
Everything.
got
Ooh.
this. My life is insane, but I got this. I can do this, right?
Hmm.
And I just was really grasping onto those as much light as I can at this point. And then this man walks into my life and he's wanting to have dance lessons. And when he contacted me, I really thought that he was an old man because he has an old man name. He does. It's fine. He can have an old man name. I love him. But when he contacted me, mostly it's old men that want to learn how to dance, or like teenage boys. It's not like, I'm
Yeah.
not the youngest, I'm not the oldest. I'm right there.
Uh-huh.
So, but I told him after he kept asking me, "Will you go on a date with me? Will you go on a date with me?" No, no, I'm done. I'm good. I am going to be a
Wow.
single old woman and I am good with that. And he actually left. I told him he needed to date more women. He needed to go find some other women to date. I was not the woman he needed to date.
This
And I
is
did
funny,
not hear
Bethany.
from him for a month. Actually, it was like 5 weeks. And I was like, sweet, got rid of him, everything
Wow.
else. He comes back with a spreadsheet being like, okay, I have dated 42 women.
No, he
This,
didn't.
yes,
What?
he is just like this.
Oh my gosh.
So I've dated all these women. These are the qualities that I like. And no one matches. This is who I want. I want to date you. This is what I want. Yeah. And so I was like,
Unbelievable.
fine, I will go on a date with you. And his persistence paid off. And I am so grateful that I had grace and mercy and
Mm.
very persistent, because I did not think that something like this could happen. And he is the
Wow.
best thing. We've been married for 6 years and he is the best
Oh,
thing that's ever happened to me. It's like the
how
complete other
beautiful.
spectrum.
It is. How beautiful is that? And what was going through my mind listening to all of that was how you said you just swore off men and said, I'm fine being single for the rest of my life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yet you sharing a story about how the love you had growing up and having, those positive influences, even with some men from your childhood and things. But yet sometimes people can hurt us to the core where
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't care. I'm not married, but in a similar light, prior to my boyfriend that I've been with now over a year, and we plan on growing and things, my last relationship, I was at that point too where I said, God, I'm fine being single the rest of my life. It is what
I
it is.
know.
And he came out of the blue that I didn't even see coming, and he has been the best man in my life. So that is beautiful. And this theme with love, I want to keep this going because I think love is so transformative. And the fact that you had a love and still do, but had a love for the classroom for 22 years through the form of being a Montessori teacher. Now, Bethany, briefly tell us what Montessori is, but more importantly, what led you down that road of being a Montessori teacher. I know what it is because I worked a couple of years at a school and I know the philosophy and the training of Montessori. But what is it? But how did you start teaching Montessori? And then tell us about that pivotal moment where you had a decision to make, and because of love for someone else, you said, I need to shift from my career to focus more on this aspect of my life. Take us there and down that road.
So this is kind of a fun story because it goes
Mhm.
back to dancing, actually,
Mm.
because so I'm a competitive ballroom dancer, or I was. And my dance coach at the time was like, you know what? You need to there is a class, a Montessori certification class that is starting. And, it's a 4.5 hour drive away. I think that you should do it. And so two other girls that I taught ballroom with, or did ballroom with, were like, okay. And I was also at the point in my life, because I was that determined child. I had graduated school early. I was done with things. I had gotten into an accelerated program where they taught you how to speed read, and they had done these things. I'd already applied for culinary scholarships all over at all these different schools. I had my plan, right? I mean, I was 16 and graduated, and I'm like, sweet, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I start taking the certification course and start doing that with these two other girls, and we drive down. We're young. I think about my 16-year-old. I'm like, I cannot believe my parents would let me do this. Like, I don't know if I'd let my kids do these things that I did. But we would drive down, we would take a 4.5 hour class, and we would drive back. So we would get back early, early in the morning, and then I'd go to this accelerated school the very next day. Like, we did that for an entire year. And by the time I was ready to do my internship, I was 17 years old. And the internship was moving out of state
Mm.
and moving away. And my parents let me do that. I'm so glad they trusted me. But I did. And I learned so much. And I learned a love for the classroom. And I taught in this classroom. I got into a very prestigious Montessori school where I was able
Mm.
to help develop a curriculum, which I actually use this methodology that I created in my coaching, but it's meeting people exactly where they're at. And a Montessori philosophy, what that does, so Montessori philosophy is a very holistic philosophy. You meet them, in their whatever they need physically, spiritually, mentally, you meet their needs. And that's how people grow is when all their needs are being met with
Mm-hmm.
their environment and with how they're being interacted with, then they're able to grow in such a capacity that is unmeasurable. It is amazing. And so you get to meet these children where they're at. And in a Montessori environment, there is no technology because it's all about hands on and learning how they grow, whether you are kinesthetic, auditory, visual, learner, however learner you are, the materials are there to help you learn. And so I was in this classroom and I developed this curriculum where we would take kids that would have special needs, either Down syndrome, autism, ADHD, sensory processing, like all these different things. And where they were developmentally, we would put them with peers. So
Mm.
it wasn't due to their chronological age. So if I had a child who had autism and he was developmentally like a 4-year-old, I would put him with the 4-year-old, even though he's 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing so, they don't see age. They're just full of love. They just love at these ages. And by putting them in there, they're able to develop at their pace and where they need
Mm-hmm.
with the examples and the peers around them. And so we built this curriculum. I presented at conferences on it, and it really was amazing to see typical peers and kids that, were neurodivergent or had needs be able to work together in such a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I taught for a long time. Then my divorce happened, moved home to Idaho. My life restarted in such a better way. I opened up a school and it was everything. Like my life had aligned. I feel like
Wow.
I finally had I had all the loves I needed. I had,
Mm-hmm.
an amazing husband. I had a great career and school growing. I had so many things that were just positive and going for me. And then, when good things happen, something always has to take
Yeah.
a fall. But then my son, at the time he was 15, he got sick,
Mm.
and not just like a little sick. He got a very he came home with a fever, and he was a cross country runner and track star and all these things, very, very active. Comes home with a fever, sick with a fever for 2 days, and then all of a sudden he cannot walk. Like
Oh
we are
my God.
literally carrying him around, bringing him to doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist. Everything is coming back normal. Slowly he's able to walk and gain strength, but he has massive tremors and is walking,
What?
and we are to everything. It took us almost 2 years to figure out what was going on. And it has just been a roller coaster of I can walk, I can't walk. I need a cane, I have tremors,
Mm,
and his running, his passion, his love, his teenage years, are being taken from him
mm,
because of this. And at the time, my husband was working from home. And so I was still running the school. And then he needed to go back. They were calling everybody back to work in office instead of online. So I needed to make a shift and I needed to be home and I needed to be available for him. And
mm.
so I did. And we were able to do a lot of testing, a lot of different things. But he has a variant and a mitochondrial dysfunction within his body. So his cells do not produce, and it affects directly his electric transport chain number 3 in his legs. And he has to take quite a bit of vitamins and nutrients. And we eat so clean, which is great for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when your cells do not produce the way that they're supposed to. And
Mm.
it took a long time because this is genetic testing that is just still very fringe. And there's not a ton of people that have mitochondrial issues. And
Oh,
it has been a very trying,
mm,
emotional roller coaster, but still, uh, I have to tell you something. We're gonna, this amazing boy has grown so much, even
mm,
though he has had more trial than anyone should at for
mm,
his most important teenage years. These
mhm,
years are important and crucial. And hallelujah, he's walking. Hallelujah, he is doing everything he can, and he has strength. It's a roller coaster,
mm.
but it's finals week right now. And he asked me the other night if I would read his English paper for finals. And I said, yeah, I'd love to read it. And it was about, he had to write a finals paper on who is your hero. And I read this thing, and he has talked multiple times to me about how this has been a really big trial for him, but he is grateful for it because of the support that we've given him and the relationship that he's been able to build with God. And I read this paper, and he goes, my hero is Jesus.
Mm.
And I just read this, and he goes, I'm so grateful that I have had a loving home that has taught me the importance of love and Jesus, and how when I'm having trials, I can give my burden to him.
My
And
God. Mm.
I know. And
Shoot.
this is his English paper.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful paper. And he talks in this paper about how this trial that he had has brought him closer to God and how he's grateful for that. And I just cried reading this
I'm sure.
because you never want to have your child go through any kind of a trial like this.
Mhm.
But for him to see so much positive light and for him to know that, you know what, maybe this is a trial so you can help other people. Maybe this is a trial so you can relate to other people because he is just a light. He walks into a room and he is a light.
Mm.
And I just, I love that kid so much. He is such a good boy. Like, I get letters from his teachers, like mailed to me, saying how grateful they are that
Mm.
he is in his class and what a great leader he is. And
That's
he is, I
amazing.
swear, he's just straight from God, light. And
That
to
is,
have
whew,
that,
wow.
to
To
have
have that,
him, I'm
my goodness.
blessed,
Oh my gosh. Yes, you are.
regardless of the trial.
Yes, and for all of the listeners and viewers, I want you all to know that when I interview my guests, my reactions are legit because I have podcast screenings, meaning I get a little bit of information, but I'm very clear to tell a guest, don't tell me everything because I want to be authentic and I want to enjoy these just like you all do. So while I knew her son had a health challenge, I didn't know. That's all I knew. And I literally got chills hearing you say like he woke up and he couldn't walk. I'm like, "What?" That is, oh my goodness. And to know, Bethany, that you are a wife, you're an entrepreneur, but you're also the mom of other kids too. Like it's not like he's the only child. So you're juggling and wearing a lot of hats. And I say this as no disrespect. I don't have children. I have a cat. And as much as I love him, I get like nervous when he's hacking up hairballs and I'm like, what's wrong? So I can only imagine if I were to have like a real child, the love I have for my cat, I know if God ever blesses me to have kids, that love is going to intensify by 10,000 because it's my child. So I use that not to say a cat mom is just like a real mom. Absolutely not. But what I'm trying to say is just hearing you say that, I can only imagine if that were my child. And I've had, as I told you, I've had health challenges ever since I was a kid. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine what my mom and dad have experienced over the years, especially a mom, because everybody says there's nothing, especially if you have a good mom, it's nothing like a mother's love. And a mom will literally go to bat and sacrifice anything for her children. And so my hat's off to you. I applaud you because I cheer and applaud you as a mother who is so devoted and had to make a tough decision where it was this career I've loved for so many years versus my child. As much as I love this is my baby. And to be there for him in times of his need, that is absolutely powerful. And for you to even talk about his love for God. And I know that God and family are the most important parts of your life. And so, how did Bethany, how did faith sustain you during your hardest seasons? And how has it shaped the way that you even walk through your life today and how you coach others?
I truly believe that faith is a seed that we just can't see the potential within.
Mm,
And I'm all about gardening. And I know that if you nurture these seeds, you'll be able to grow beautiful things. And sometimes you won't even know what you're growing because it's a mystery seed. But I mean, it was a hard call because yes, it was something I loved. And I remember like the end of the year program that we had at school. I could not, like, I'm leading all the kids singing the caterpillar song and all the butterfly life cycle song and doing all the things I love to do, just singing with them. And I am crying, thinking, this is the last time I get to sing with these kids, right?
mm,
But, faith and God works in mysterious ways. Because as I made this shift and I made this transition, because I am a teacher, that's who I am. This is what I am. This is what I do. And I'm able to help so many more people. The classroom is so great, but I did not know the extent of the people that I could touch. And now I get to touch not just the parents of children and the people that are going to impact the generations that are coming down. I get to impact everything, the future. Like, I'm now impacting everyone. And taking that perspective and knowing that, God let that happen too. Because before I was just affecting these little kids. Now I get to affect their parents. And that was actually my biggest complaint as a teacher, being like, these parents don't know what they're doing. Holy cow. I am teaching these kids and these parents don't know what they're doing. And now I'm able to help the parents and help the adult. And guess what? That's going to trickle down to these kids. Because
hmm
as I teach emotional resilience and emotional awareness, self-care and all these things. Guess what? Guess who's watching? These kids, people around you are watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that by planting that little seed, but keeping it growing, I'm actually growing into something bigger and better
Mm.
and just going forward with faith.
Wow. And so you went from teaching children, Bethany, to teaching life skills and mindset. How did you discover this passion? And what was the moment that you knew, yeah, this type of coaching is my next calling?
So after when I knew that I needed to transition, I started
Mm-hmm.
doing, of course, I'm an educator. So I'm like, okay, I need to do certification. So I looked into different kinds of coaching because it seemed natural flow for me. And I took 6 different certifications.
Mm-hmm.
I did not learn very much from any of these certification courses that I took. I'm going to be honest with you, which is it's kind of sad, but I have been teaching for so long that I've taught these. This is who I am. This is
Girl,
embedded in me.
real quick, let me pause you here. A brief little shameless plug. I'm a former teacher, and you are too. We're always teachers at the core and the heart. But y'all, Bethany and I talked offline about how people sleep on teachers. They don't realize those of us who spent a long time, and me 20 and her 22, in schools, y'all just don't know. We are the secret weapon and we're a power force. So,
Totally are. We
girl,
totally are.
go ahead.
But
Hmm.
yeah. And how I decided on mindset is because, okay, number one, mindset controls everything. And to be honest with you, there's no such thing as mindset coaching at all. There's no such thing, but people need something to relate to.
Tell the truth.
What I teach is life skills.
Yup.
This is what I teach because you cannot change your mindset. You can do nothing unless you have life skills. So I change your mindset by teaching you the skills you need
Hmm.
to be able to be successful. And I think that that is because there is no thing that I'm going to take this magic course and this is going to change the way I think. That is not true.
Hmm.
There's no such thing. What is true is that from birth to 7 years old, your personality and who you are is completely developed. And I know this. Your personality traits, who you are, the core being of you, is developed by the time you are 7 years old. You can't change that. But what you can do is improve upon that. And what you can do is gain more skills and gain more support to shape you and develop you into a beautiful, better person. You can't change the core of who you are, but you can add to it. And
Hmm.
that's what I do is I add the life skills that we're missing as a person, as a whole, to build you so that you can be able to change your mindset. So that when you have a struggle, when you're faced with these difficult decisions, you can have the skill of cognitive reframing. You
Hmm.
know what? That was super negative of me. I'm glad I'm recognizing that. Okay, I need to think about it a little bit different. I guess it's a good thing that I failed. You know what? If I failed, then that means that I'm not good at it. And the only way I can succeed is if I fail first.
Hmm.
Reframing your thought process. That's a
Hmm.
skill that you have to gain. That's a skill you need to learn. Not everyone does that. So many people just keep getting stuck in the vicious cycle of I just can't do this. Life is hard. And then all of a sudden they're just going in the cycle of, you know what? Now my body is showing that life is hard. I'm so sad. Your body is now showing it. You're just going into the cycle and now you're depressed. And now you don't care. And now you can't meet your goals. And now everything is going bad. Like recognize that and how to recognize that and get out of that vicious cycle and into a virtuous cycle literally
Hmm.
is creating the skills to be able to see that, to recognize that, to realize that I'm going to be human and I'm going to have that negative thought. I might even get 3 or 4 steps down the vicious cycle, but whoa, I recognized it here. Okay, what do I need to do? Oh,
Hmm.
okay, I need to reframe this, or you know what? My environment is not conducive to how I need to
Hmm.
be feeling. I need to change
Hmm.
my environment. And
Yeah.
being able to gain those skills to be able to do that is what changes your mindset.
It does, as well as everything that you experience in your life, because even with you, everything that you've been through, loss, adversity, abuse, reinvention, the whole gamut, it's giving you, Bethany, a powerful perspective. And so, thinking about your journey of transformation, faith, purpose, looking ahead, what is the vision and what's the effect that you hope to leave in the lives of those that you serve?
I want people to create an intrinsic motivation for themselves. I want them to
Hmm.
do things for themselves. I feel like we are in a society where we're looking for the thumbs up and the
Mm,
hearts and the constant outward approval of everything. We're not doing it for ourselves anymore. And because we're not doing it for ourselves, this is where we fall short. We fall short because we're doing it for everyone else, for the approval of everyone else. And when you can build intrinsic motivation and do things for yourself, that is how you change the world, is because you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. You're doing it not because someone is looking over your shoulder telling you. You're doing it because you know this is the right thing to do and you feel
mm,
that in your core. And that is what I ultimately want to teach, is that you do it because you want to do it, not because someone is telling you, not because you're going to get in trouble. You are going to accept whatever consequence, good or good or bad, and
mhm,
you're going to just plow through this because you know that this is the right thing to do in your core.
mhm,
And that is what I'm hoping, and that is what I hope to like portray and give to everyone that goes through my programs or my videos or whatever I do, so that they can really develop themselves and feel that like I'm doing this for me, not because
mhm.
somebody's telling me or because somebody gives me a heart.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
so direct. And if a person wants to learn more about your coaching or your courses or videos or whatever you offer, how can they go about contacting you?
They can go to my website. It's thrivingbynature.com,
Hmm.
or you can go ahead and you can email me. And I'm pretty good at emailing back, and it's
Yeah.
Bethany at thrivingbynature.com. And yeah, I'm also on social media. You can actually just look up Bethany Stone. That's
Hmm.
me. If you see my
Hmm.
picture, it's me.
Yes, exactly. And I will have those links. As we come to a close, Bethany, I want to leave with this thought in just thinking about everything that you've talked about today. For a listener or watcher who is engaged with what we're doing here, listening, everything's happening like, okay, life skills great, but they want that level of success, but say I've been through too much or it's too far gone or that's not for me. What would you say to a person in order to get them to start preparing themselves mentally and emotionally so that they are preparing themselves for that next version of who they are intended to be?
So, one of the things, the strands of light that I grasped onto with my hummingbird incident that we talked about and all the things that happened there, was I began to write again. And when I did, I started to create something, and I do it to this day. And I started with three things that I knew that if I did these three things every day, I would be better. And I was trying to build upon anything I could. And honestly, my three things were make my bed, drink water,
Mm,
and say a prayer. And I just tried to do these three things every single day. What these things did is they made me a stronger person, and they made it so that I could do more. So my list of three things that I've done every day is now a list of 17 things that I do every day.
mm,
And I build upon it because it's all about building where you're at. It's that Montessori approach, that meeting you where you're at. If you can only do one thing a day, just start with, I'm going to make my bed every day. So at least I start my day off with an accomplishment no matter what. No matter how the day goes, I made my bed. I'm doing good. You know, whatever it is to like do that little tiny thing, create a better me list. Do little things that you know that if you do these things every day, slowly you'll become a better you. And just
That's
start
right.
there.
Mm. And you certainly started just with your giving spirit at a young age. And if you think back to that 16-year-old girl whose life was uprooted and had to really navigate some difficult things and being the woman you are today, what would you say to that 16-year-old girl trying to determine her next steps in life?
I would say slow down.
Mm,
I would tell her that it's going to be okay. And I would tell her to not run faster than she's able because I feel like for me, I really had I feel like growing up, I ran faster than I was able at times, but at the same time, it was very beneficial. It's a double-edged sword when you think about it. And I think that we can look back on our lives and see, like, if I wouldn't have done this, would I still have the same outcome? If I
hmm
wouldn't have done this, would this still happen? And I look back on this time and I think, if I would have gone a little slower and maybe spent more time in high school and not done would I be here? Or would I be here?
hmm
I don't know. That's a really tough question. I think I would tell myself to slow down, but at the same time, I would tell myself cook more anyways.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Oh gosh, I love it. And I love you, Bethany. Thank you so much for your insights, for your encouragement, for your wisdom, and for your practicality here today. You are a gift that the world needs, and it has been my honor having you here on the
Thank
Power
you.
Transformation Podcast. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I'm so grateful to be here. You're so amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.